Today on Pots and Trowels, I'm going to be answering a few of your gardening questions, and that's brought to you with the support of Allett and Cobra Garden. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, today I just thought I'd catch up with some of the questions that you've been sending in to me. So starting off, this is one that's come in from Julia, and she's asked if I can give her any ideas of flowering plants that she can put in the garden to give a colour and interest from this time of the year right the way through, I suppose, until early autumn. So yes, Julia, there's loads and loads that you can have in the garden that will look good from really late August right the way through until October. And just a few really good reliable ones are things like helenium, which are great. They're in all shades of sort of yellows and oranges and that lovely burnt mahogany colour, and they grow in various sizes up to a couple of feet tall and flower and flower and flower. Echinacea is another good one, especially if you go for the sort of the strong growing Echinacea purpurea that has those lovely dark pink flowers, again strong stems on there. Anywhere with a little bit of shade, something like the anemones. Just be careful, one or two of the older varieties have a tendency to run, but as long as you keep on top of them, they'll look good, and they can be whites and shades of pinks. Agapanthus, really good for late colour. You can grow them either in containers or the borders, and it's just nice to get that mix of blue in there as well instead of those autumnal colours. Verbena bonariensis, something for a little bit of height towards the back of the border with those purple flowers, a lovely see-through plant. And Rudbeckia, of course, just a ray of sunshine later on in the autumn, those lovely yellow daisy-like flowers. And mixed in with those, maybe one or two of the taller grasses that, you know, get to maybe a metre tall, some of the miscanthus like Morning Light or things like Calamagrostis will just add that movement to the border, and that will look good, as I say, right the way through until October time. Disease question now. This is one that's come from Mike, and it's about his apples. Although he said he's got a fairly good crop of apples this year, he's noticed that some are dropping off and they've got big brown spots on there, and then the whole apple eventually goes brown. Well, that is a disease called brown rot. It's not been too bad in some places this year because it's dry. It's often worse if we get a bit more rain, and I don't know where you are, Mike, so it may be you're in a slightly damper area, but brown rot is a fungal disease you can get on all fruits, apples, pears, plums, and it is a fungal disease that gets into a little nick in the skin, and then it develops very quickly, and the whole fruit will just basically go brown and rot, and then you'll notice you get these concentric rings of spores. So what you need to do with that, there are no sprays that are available. It's simply a case of good garden hygiene. Pick them off, get rid of them, burn them, put them in the dustbin, but certainly not on your compost heap. Any that stay on the tree, because some of them will mummify and hang there for months and months, or any that fall to the floor, dispose of them, just to prevent those spores spreading. And maybe in the winter months, give it a winter wash with an organic winter wash, just to kill any of the overwintering spores, and that will certainly help. Sheila would like to know if it's too late to lift and divide irises in the garden. Well, it is getting late enough, but if you've got an overgrown clump in the garden, Sheila, that you need to do it, I would do it now, especially if it's tired and looking dead in the middle and it's not flowered very well. So just lift them, get rid of the woody centre of the plant, discard that, and save the nice new growths around the edge. Plant them straight away, water them in, and just cut the foliage down a little bit so that they don't lose too much water, and they will establish over the next couple of weeks and make a really strong root system, so I'm sure they'll be absolutely fine. A question next from Jeff, who's got a hydrangea Annabelle in his garden that he said is absolutely full of flower and doing really, really well, and he wants to know when and how to prune it, or should he just leave it alone? Well, you can leave it alone, but I find that way you get weaker growth. You'll get probably more flowers, but they'll be much smaller, and if they do get a bit wet, then the weight of the flowers can drag them down. This is next year, of course. So what I tend to do with hydrangea Annabelle is give it a really hard prune, Jeff. Not now. Enjoy the flowers while they're still looking good. They will dry and you'll get autumn and winter interest on them. And then what I would do when the leaves have fallen off and it's totally bare, next March time is get your secateurs and completely cut it down to ground level. It looks really drastic, but what that does is promote strong stems about the thickness of your finger, and they will support those really big heads all the way through the summer. So my advice would be cut it hard every year in March time. What we call hydrangea arborescens. You might have heard of Annabelle. I've talked about it, we've shown you it before. It has those really big white flowers. Well, this is the pink form, pink Annabelle. Question here from Linda. Linda's slightly worried because in her garden and all around where she lives, lots of trees are already casting their leaves, and she wonders if it's something that she should be worried about and if the trees are dying. Well, I don't think they are, Linda. I think this is more just an after effect of the hot, dry summer that we've had. I think we are certainly going to get a much earlier autumn than we've been used to, and trees that have been stressed, it's their natural way of just dropping some foliage as a preservation. So don't worry about it. I'm sure they'll be perfectly fine next year, and it just means that the leaf clearing time is going to probably last a bit longer for you this year. And then to finish off, I think our last one, oh no, a couple more. We've got Dave, who wants to know about his tomatoes. Despite the fact he's watered them and fed them, he's still getting some that have developed blossom end rot, where you get these dark leathery bases on the fruit. So he wonders what more he can do about it. The simple answer is nothing. If you're giving them plenty of water and not letting them dry out, and you're giving them the feed, that's all you can do. The feed will contain calcium, which is the important thing to prevent this happening again in the future. And I suspect this is another one that we can blame on the hot summer. Although you've been watering and feeding, they haven't been taking up enough of that calcium into the plant, and hence the reason that the blossom end rots develop. So I think next year, with slightly cooler conditions, your fruits will be fine. And don't forget, even if they've got this brown patch on the base of the fruit, just slice it off and eat them. It doesn't ruin the inside flesh of them at all. And finally, another one, a disease. It's that time of the year, I'm afraid. This one is from Carol, and it's regarding pear rust, and she wants to know what she can spray to get rid of it on the tree. Well, pear rust is when you get these orange spots. They're quite attractive actually on the upper surface of the leaf, and then they develop into little corky warts below as the season goes on. Again, it's fungal disease, spreads in the atmosphere, the spores land on the leaf, and this causes this leaf marking. The good news is it doesn't actually weaken the tree. They look worse than they are. And the advice I would say is don't use any fungicides on there. Don't use anything at all, because they don't work particularly well against it. And don't pick the leaves off, because although you've got orange spots on the leaf, the rest of the leaf that's green is still doing its job and photosynthesizing and feeding your plant. So all I would say is wait until the leaves have fallen off in the autumn, then you can pick them up, get rid of them, and just make sure that next year your tree is fed well in the spring, mulch it when the soil's moist to conserve the moisture so that it's growing well, and it will be absolutely fine. It won't kill the tree at all, it doesn't affect the fruits. It's one of those things that we just live with. So hopefully that's answered some of your questions. We are going to do another Q&A session from the garden in probably a month's time. So if you've got any questions that you would like me to answer, then pop them on Facebook and on YouTube. Not Messenger. I'm rubbish at checking my Messenger, and we'll collate them and answer them in a few weeks' time. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and I hope that's answered a few of your gardening queries. And remember, you can watch everything that we've done on Pots and Trowels on Facebook and on YouTube. Next time we're with you, we're going to be giving you a glimpse of the new Pots and Trowels HQ. So we'll see you then. Bye.